you're not able today to get any of your questions answered, you can go onto the website qa.com, where basically first you should check if the question that you have has already been answered. If it hasn't, then the website's really easy to use. You just put your question in, and inshallah, if you have answered it, and you put it on a YouTube channel, inshallah. So, and also every Thursday there's a Q&A, and there's live stream classes Monday to Thursday every week on the YouTube channel. That's all. Yeah.
Inshallah, whatever questions that they may have that I have the ability to answer. Bismillah. If there are any questions, and if not, alhamdulillah.
Maybe it's everybody, when they write their question down, can pass it to the end of the row here, and then we'll just start from there. And if you want, you can say your question out loud too if you want.
طيب بسم الله الحمد لله وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على رسول الله. First question says, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How do you know when you're given up an opportunity to teach because you are unqualified rather than shaitan? As if the question is asking, how do you know when you should or shouldn't start teaching or giving da'wah or holding a halaqah, etc. When is it Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala trying to show you, or Allah is showing you and you trying to understand and see? Allah doesn't try to do anything, Allah does what He wants to do, azza wa jalla. Or is it from the shaitan, you being hasty, etc.? At the end of the day, Allah clearly tells us in the Quran, وَفَوْقَ كُلِّ ذِي عِلْمٍ عَلِيمٍ. And above every learned person is someone who knows more. Is someone who knows more. Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, who was one of the greatest of Allah's prophets and messengers, and the man mentioned in the Quran more than any other prophet and messenger, and all of the special blessings and gifts that he received from his Lord, when he was asked, do you know someone who's more learned than you? He said, no, I don't. And Allah Azza wa Jalla instructed him and informed him to go and seek out Khidr. That Khidr has some knowledge that you don't have. So there's always someone who's going to be more learned than you. Always. There's always someone who knows more than you. So if you use it as an absolute scale, there are people that are better than me, I don't know that much, so on and so forth, then no one would ever teach. No one would ever teach. I wouldn't be sitting in front of you tonight if that was my criterion. It's someone who's better than me. There are people who have more knowledge than me and have been doing it longer than me and are better than me. So that's not always the condition, that you have to be the most knowledgeable person in the land. What's important is the Prophet ﷺ says, مَنْ اسْتَطَاعَ مِنْكُمْ أَنْ يَنْفَعَ أَخَاهُ فَلْيَفْعَلْ. Whether it's pertaining to the ruqyah or anything else. If you can help out your brother, then do so. If you can help out, and if you can be in aid, and if you can assist the masjids and the centers and the universities and the institutes or the families or da'wah, then do it on a small scale or a large scale. And if there's someone who has more knowledge than you and who's older than you and more virtuous than you, then obviously you don't butt heads with them and lock horns with them and clash with them, but assist them and help them out. Assist them and help them out. And the only way of you getting more knowledge and becoming better and stronger and sharper is to practice. Practice makes perfect. So you have to start somewhere. So it could be one person that you teach a book to. It could be one small halaqah that you give. It could be a few sisters that you sit with and read some hadiths to. It doesn't mean that you have to be Shaykh Islam ibn Taymiyyah, living and walking. It doesn't mean that. Nor does it mean that you sacrifice your time and your own search of ilm, and you haven't studied anything, and you put yourself in front of the people. But there's a difference between giving da'wah, there's a difference between doing it professionally, there's a difference between answering questions and tackling issues and speaking about things that you may not necessarily have the ability to speak on. But giving a basic halaqah, helping people out, teaching tajweed, giving Quran to children, that's something that you should never ever avoid and stay away from. No matter how long you've been studying, because it's only going to help you, and everyone has the obligation of doing something to support the da'wah and the teaching of Islam. And Allah knows best. As-salamu alaykum. Shaykh, I prayed Asr at home, and I come to the masjid and they start Asr the prayer. What shall I do? A sister told me to make a niyyah for sunnah. Is there 4 rak'ah sunnah? Like, if you get to the masjid and they're praying, one could possibly say, join in with them as a nafilah. But there's no 2 asrs that are mandatory in a day. There are only 5 prayers that are obligatory during a day. So you get to the masjid, it's not obligatory for you to pray asr again. Alright? Al-Muhim is that if you want to join in with them with the intention of a recommended act, then that's one thing. If a person said, no, it's after asr, and I made asr already, and I'm supposed to sit down and not pray prayers until Maghrib comes in, that's another way. And the third way would obviously be for a person to make 2 rak'ah and to sit down and not join with them in the jama'ah. So it's option. You have options, and Allah knows best. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Shaykh, allowed to recite during sujood the du'as which start Rabbi. The best thing to do, inshallah ta'ala, is that when you make sujood is to ask Allah and to beg Allah for the good of this life and the good of the hereafter. Ask Allah for the good of the deen and the good of the dunya when you're offering the sujood, whereas the Prophet ﷺ has clearly informed us the virtue of sujood and how close a person is to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَقَمِنٌ أَنْ يُسْتَجَابَ لَهُ. So it's a big opportunity for your dua to be answered. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. If a sister wants to wear niqab but her parents are against it because they fear for her safety, what should she do? She should wear the niqab. Try to advise them, try to speak with them, try to get the knowledgeable imam from the masjid or the local resident scholar to talk with her mother or her father. Try to get them to watch a YouTube video or something like this. Avoid arguing with them, but try your best to convince them and explain to them. And if Allah puts that in your heart and you want to step up and level up and go to the next level of piety and righteousness, that is what you should do. Allah is the protector and the sustainer. Allah is the protector and the sustainer. And if it's just safety or a safety issue, then don't wear hijab. Some sisters get attacked, get bothered by wearing hijab. Or not the hijab, don't wear a khimar. Some sisters get attacked because when does it stop? When does it stop? Allah is the protector of the servant. When does it stop? We keep compromising. Obviously, if a Muslim or a Muslimah is living in a place in which she is under a threat and there's an issue of safety, then she shouldn't necessarily be in that place, let alone by herself, without some type of chaperone or mahram or a group of sisters in which those who wish to do some harm to her will at least think twice. So that is the rule of niqab or anything else. If you have an issue in which there's someone who's going to do physical harm to you because of your dress code, you shouldn't be in that place. And if you are in that place, you should not be outside of the house by yourself. Period. And Allah Azza wa Jalla knows best. Who do maintaining ties, kinship include in the family? Relationship with them. Maintain a relationship with all of your family to the best of your ability. Of course, the mother is not like a cousin. The cousin is not like an uncle. The uncle is not like a brother. A brother is not like a third, etc. There are levels, of course. There are levels of people in your family. There are levels of individuals in your family. What's important is try your best to keep a good relationship with everyone. Try your best to keep a good relationship with everyone to the best of your ability. To the best of your ability. If you can't, then do what you can. But you shouldn't have any intention of cutting anyone off from your family, whether they're close or whether they're distant, as long as they're from your family members and your relatives. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala surely knows best. How do you approach students where you want to educate people? How do you approach situations where you want to educate people and stand your ground when you're in a position where one of your students learning something that goes against Islam. So as if you're an Islamic teacher and one of your students is studying something and they learn something that's against Islam, how do you approach situations where you want to educate people and stand your ground when you're in a position where you are student learning something goes over Islam? I'm not that clear on the question. I'm not that super clear on the question. Maybe I read it wrong. If they can reword it or something, or maybe ask it in person by hand, it may be easier. And long as best.
A similar question online. This was SA, Ontario, Canada. Assalamu alaikum. Based on your observation/experience, do you have advice for a Muslim teacher working at an Islamic primary school, dealing with the students and administration, content, etc.?
Like you're at an Islamic school or a Muslim school, and there are some issues with some of the content. Adinu nasiha. Give them advice. You do not necessarily have to say it's haram or it's a bid'ah or it's a hadith. Ask them a question. You know, Jazakumullah khairan, I saw this in the textbook on page 5. Is that correct? Can you help me understand this? Maybe you can refer me to another book. Is this good for our children? Even if it isn't something which is wrong or false, but just ask a question. Ask for clarification. Maybe they don't know. Maybe they need it to be clarified for them. Maybe they're just blindly following. Maybe they don't realize that it's incorrect in the textbook. Ad-dinu nasiha. Give advice to everyone, to everybody. Alright? If they refuse advice or they say, shut up, what do you know? We know better than you. Tell you, you've done your job. I did my job. I gave advice. They don't want to listen. Let us. You teach what you know is correct, whether it's in the book or outside of the book. And obviously, whenever you're teaching a curriculum, a wise, skilled teacher can always find a way to avoid problematic issues. On page 56, it says something crazy. They can have a way in which they can teach the book without even getting into clashing and conflict, if you do it in the right way. And if it's something which is clearly against Islam, clearly against the Sunnah, and there's no way around it, and they want you to teach it and they force it upon you, then put your trust in Allah and seek another job teaching. And Allah Azza wa Jalla's earth is more than spacious. And Allah knows best. It's permissible for breastfeeding women to combine prayers. It's not necessarily an issue of combining prayers. You combine prayers if you're sick. If you're sick, if you're traveling, you combine prayers if you have irregular bleeding. You combine prayers if you're in a place in which there's a situation in which you have to combine the prayers. And you're not going to have the ability to make the prayer on time. You know you're going to get jammed up. Then it's permissible. If that's because of breastfeeding, then do it. But the normal rule is that no. A woman breastfeeds a child, and it's normal. Even if she has to go through some difficulties and some pains of the baby waking up, of her pumping the milk, traveling, etc. No, it's not a specific reason to combine prayers. Unless it falls under one of those general categories and I cannot withstand it. I'm very tired and exhausted and I'm very dehydrated. So I made my dhuhr and my asr because I need to sleep right after asr. I want to sleep for some hours. That is not because of breastfeeding. That's because of sickness. Traveling. You're not combining prayers because of breastfeeding. You're combining prayers because you're traveling. Well, how can that? And Allah knows best. Says, what is your opinion on vaccinations? I think vaccinations pertain to the time and the place in which you are. The time and place in which you are. Some places and sometimes vaccinations were important or are important, maybe even mandatory. And there are other times and places in which vaccinations are not needed. Now, I don't want to go into no conspiracy theories as they say, but we talk about one of the worst illnesses or diseases or infections known to man today, which is HIV. And obviously, after HIV is AIDS. If you read and you go back to the history of this illness or this sickness, this infection, HIV or AIDS, there are different theories where it came from. There are different theories where it came from. And one of the theories is that the HIV virus, and obviously consequently AIDS, was spread through polio vaccinations. Polio vaccinations. And polio was such a problem and such a scourge against the health of children around the world. There were many scientists and chemists, many different pharmaceutical companies that spent millions of dollars and many years of research to find a cure against polio. And we know that one of the theories of the HIV virus is that the people were blinded by their successful discovery of a magical cure for polio, that they were spreading the HIV virus, and they didn't even realize it. And once they realized that, they didn't stop. They didn't care that the vaccination was extremely risky, and it was untested, and it was not proven to be safe. And they still gave millions of people the vaccination. And that, according to one theory, was the cause of the spread of HIV virus around the world. So this goes to show how dangerous vaccinations are. In which people, they think that you have to take it, you're going to get sick, you're going to die, and oftentimes they may be putting an illness and a sickness in your body. So be careful when it comes to vaccinations. Some vaccinations are good, others are clearly bad, some are doubtful, and it depends on the time and the place. And please, like I always say, do not take this from me. Don't take this from me. Go and read about the history of HIV virus and the polio vaccination. And you may be appalled and shocked what you read and what you find of the people being reckless and spreading and forcing vaccinations upon people. And obviously what happened after 1 million children were given that vaccination, how the HIV spread. And the other false and fake theories of HIV virus with regards to the hunter and the catcher, the hunter and the gatherer, and that a person was in the woods in the Congo and a monkey bit him, and then he went around and he had intercourse in this person and that person. Now, the people have been capturing and collecting those animals for years, and there was nothing ever known as HIV. So obviously that doesn't make any sense. So read about the history of vaccinations, and Allah knows best. If a woman's postpartum bleeding stops for a day and then continues the next day, should she start praying before the 40 days are complete? Yes. If it comes on and off, then deal with it on and off until it reaches the 40-day period. And some scholars say 70 days, not just 40. And others even say 80 days. But let's just say 40 for now. What's important is, no matter what happens from the time you give birth, or even before birth, 2 to 3 days before birth, some scholars say. But let's keep it simple, say after birth. So you gave birth on the 1st of January, and then you bled on the 2nd of January, and you were clean for 4 days, then it came back up and down the 10th of February. Consider it all nifas. After the 10th day of February, it's a different story. Is it menses? Is it hayd? Is it irregular? Etc. Anything within the 40-day period, on, off, little or lot, consider it to be the blood of postnatal bleeding. And Allah knows best. When you are learning from a non-Muslim source, how should you react when you are taught something that is correct, that is not correct, or could be explained better? Well, obviously, if you're learning, how do you know what's correct and what's incorrect? You're a learner. You're a student. It is presupposed that you're eating out of the hand of that teacher. All right? At the end of the day, you know for sure that it's incorrect. It depends on the setting. If you have the ability to give advice to the teacher, if you have the ability to correct the teacher, if you have the ability to get a better teacher, that's one thing. Or you don't have the ability to give advice or to correct, then just avoid it. Stay away from it. You take the good, leave off the evil, unless it's something which is dangerous and something which could possibly grab your mind and your heart. As far as if you know it's wrong and this guy doesn't know what he's talking about, I'm just here to pass the exam to get the degree. No, there isn't one person who speaks from revelation of Allah. No one. Muhammad ﷺ has passed away. There's no one who says everything which is right and never says something which is wrong or incorrect. Obviously, there are people who make more mistakes than others. Obviously, there are levels and types of mistakes, etc., etc. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala surely knows best. There are sisters that want to seek knowledge of the deen to later teach. However, they face negative comments from family members and brothers who tell them to sit down and stay home. At this point, it's hard and the negativity becomes harder. Can you guide? Can you give advice on how we should go forward? Jazakallahu khairan. وَلَا تُطِعْهُ الَّذِينَ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. Allah says, don't listen to people and do not obey the desires of individuals who don't know. So if someone is ignorant and they say, don't seek knowledge, you don't need to seek knowledge, you're a woman, you stay home, you make babies, that's it. Don't listen to them. Jazakallahu khairan. And when they are spoken to by ignorant people, Allah tells us, Salam, peace be upon you. Salamun alaykum, la nabtaghi al-jahilin. Allah tells us in Surah 28. Peace be upon you, we don't want the ignorant people. Khalas, shukran, thank you very much for your advice. And that's it. Don't waste your time, don't spend your time arguing and fighting with people. Life is short. Life is short and knowledge is abundant. There's no point in arguing with someone who talks foolishly or ignorantly. It's just that simple. You know in your heart that you want to seek knowledge. It's a benefit for you to seek knowledge. Jazakallah khairan. Move on with your life. Prior to practicing, my parents used to allow me to go out and have fun. However, after I started practicing, they always want to come home for me and tell me to stay home. And they say the hadith that the female should stay home. What should I do? It depends on how old you are. It depends on how old you are. If you're old enough to get married, get married. If you're not old enough to get married, and you have to stay home, ask your parents. Is it haram to go outside on me? Abby? Did the Prophet say to go outside? Did the Prophet say, when your wife asks you for permission to go to the masjid, don't stop her. Is this not a hadith as well? So there's a balance. The hadith about staying in your house or praying in your home, Allah says in staying in your houses, it doesn't mean that you're a prisoner in your house. It does not mean that. That's not Islam. Okay? And Allah knows best. Assalamu alaikum. What is the ruling on a woman traveling alone? Especially in this day and age where traveling is made very easy. I heard the hadith saying that there will come a time where it is safe for a woman to travel alone. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The Prophet said that a woman should not travel alone. So that's the best thing that you should do. As far as what some ulama of Islam explain and give detail on, then yes, some scholars they do say that. Even back in the time of earlier scholars, such as Ibn Taymiyyah, some of them say that if the tariq is amin, if there's safety outside, then a woman can travel without a mahram. But it's not what the Prophet ﷺ said. That's not what Muhammad ﷺ said. So you should not travel without a mahram unless it is a necessity, unless it is a need. And if there is a need or necessity, and the road is safe, according to those ulama, la bas. Question, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi. What does maintaining ties of kinship look like? How frequently do we have to communicate? Is there family we have to know of? Jazakallahu khairan. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It goes back to your culture. It goes back to your culture. The culture that is not against Islam. The culture that is not against the Sunnah. So that means seeing them once a week. If that means eating dinner with them on Jum'ah. If that means calling your cousin or calling your uncle. If that means giving your mother money. If that means helping your father out. If that means playing with your little brothers. If that means this and that, then that is what you do. Based off of the culture. Based off of the culture of your people. As long as the culture does not clash with the Sunnah. And of course, based off of your means and your ability. I would love to come and have dinner on Jummah, but I have to work. I have to pay bills, and my family doesn't pay my bills. I have to have a class, and my family, they're not religious, they're not studious at all. I want to go visit my family, but they drink alcohol, they smoke cigarettes, or they make fun of religious people. They laugh at me when I walk in the house. It depends. Some people you may just call, and you don't visit them in person. Some people you visit in person and you don't call. Some people you may go give them a nasiha. Some people are pious and righteous on the sunnah like you. It depends on the culture, and it depends on those family members and on those relatives. And Allah knows best. What should a sister do if her parents would only allow her to marry someone from her tribe, and they would not let her marry someone from outside the tribe, even if he is a righteous man? Especially if the tribe is small and the sister lives in the Disapuro West. Is this kind of not realistic? First and foremost, is ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give you a way out. Give you a flight square. Ask Allah for that. Ask Allah to allow some type of crack or breach in the wall that they're trying to put up against you. That's number one. Number two is talk to your parents openly and honestly. Be upfront with them. Be transparent with them. And don't be shy. Depending on the relationship that you have with your parents, if it's a good relationship, then it's easier. And if you don't have a good relationship, you just say it to your father, Abby, I don't want to marry nobody from my tribe. I don't want to marry my cousin. I don't want to marry this brother. I do not like him. I'm not attracted to him. I don't want anything to do with him. Oh, it's a phase, she'll go to it. No, Abby, I don't want to get married to him. Tell them, explain to them that you want to marry someone who's righteous, no matter what tribe they come from. You want to marry someone who's righteous, no matter what tribe that they come from. Okay? That's the bottom line. And if they refuse to marry you off unless you listen to them, and they refuse to listen to you and respect you as a Muslim woman, then tell them what the ulama of Islam say, that compatibility in marriage is in two things only, and that is religion and character. He prays 5 times a day, he fasts, he gives zakah, he makes hajj, he's a Muslim, he's pious, he's righteous, and he has a good sense of humor. And he's funny, and he's kind, and he's a gentleman, and he has good hygiene, and this and that. That's why I want to marry Abby, whether he's from my tribe, my clan, my or not. And teach them about what the Prophet ﷺ said, how he married companions to different people from different tribes, different lineages. This man used to be a slave, this person used to be a slave, etc. The Prophet never looked at those things. He never looked at those things. He said, Ankihi Usama. He told Fatima bint Qais, he says, marry Usama. And what was Usama's lineage? Usama was the son of Zayd. And what was Zayd's lineage? The only man mentioned in the Quran. And you understand this? The only man mentioned in the Quran by name, besides the prophets and the messengers. He was the only companion, the only man from the Sahaba that Allah mentioned in the Quran by name. And what was his lineage? Was he a noble or was he his son? What was his son's lineage? What did people say about him? What was his son? His son, it says, Shadid al-Sawad. Osama ibn Zayd had very, very dark skin, which was extremely and still is extremely taboo to people that are Arabs. They don't like people with dark skin. It's their culture. You can't do anything about that. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said, when she was asked about Muawiyah, and when she was asked about Jahm, he said, what? Anki Usama. Marry Usama. Bottom line. And then Fatima, she didn't want to marry Usama. But she listens to the Prophet ﷺ, and then afterwards she says that Allah placed a great deal of good in our marriage. Allah placed a great deal of good in our marriage. So if you want to be upon Jahiliyyah and stuck in your culture, then that's one thing. As far as Islam and Deen and Sunnah, then that's another thing. And ask your parents, or have someone speak to your parents, what do you want? You want your daughter to be happy, or you want your daughter just to obey the culture? What's more important to you, formalities or true happiness? What type of grandchildren are going to come from that relationship in which she's miserable? And every time he walks in the door, her skin cringes. Oh man, not him again. He just left. This is a reality. What type of children are going to come from that relationship? So oftentimes people are extremely ignorant, unfortunately, and this is why Allah and His Messenger, they've warned us against Jahiliyyah and being like the people of Jahiliyyah. And that is why the Jews would say, and the Mushriks would say, مَا يُرِيدُ هَذَا الرَّجُلُ أَنْ يَدَعَ مِنْ أَمْرِنَا شَيْئًا إِلَّا خَالَفْنَا فِيهِ. Every opportunity Muhammad gets to be different than us, he does so. Intentionally opposes our ways, because Jahiliyyah is filth. And it doesn't make any sense to be upon Jahiliyyah. That a woman has to marry a person just because of a tribe. We're living in Canada. We're not living in a third world country in which someone gets married and the dowry is goats and sheep. And the tribes have to sit there. It's Canada. It's a different world. Don't you have money? You have a bank account? How much money have you made since you came to Canada in 1986? Could you have that money back home in your country? Could you own this house and own this car in country? Of course you couldn't. You've changed. You've adjusted. So why do you have to stick to your stupid, ignorant, Jahiliyyah practices of your country? Makes no sense. Last but not least, the sisters are at fault. It's not the father's fault. It's not the mother's fault, but it's your fault for allowing it to keep happening. You keep silent. You don't say anything. You don't do anything. I don't want to get my father upset. I don't want to break family ties. I don't want. And the men, they keep doing it. Why should we change if you allow us to keep doing it to you? For what? Why should I change? You're just going to go with the flow. All I do is put some pressure on you, threaten you, you're being an evil, disobedient daughter, and then you'll listen to me. You're knowledgeable, you're pious, I'm ignorant, I'm a Jahiliyyah, I'm stuck in the past, and you obey me. It's your fault. And there's never been change in history of any type of civil policy unless the people stood up and refused to take it any longer. So if you keep submitting, you can't get upset. Next question says, how to give dawah to beloved sisters, family, and friends. Give dawah to them. It's that simple. Give them a book, take them to the masjid, give them advice, go out and have a cup of tea, explain to them, whatever you can, however you can. Call to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the best way you know how. What advice can you give to a sister who really wants to get married, but the same does not want to, in her preference and deen, character, compatibility? All potential suitors is not what she wants, but is facing pressure from family and biological clock, like I just said. like I just said. Sometimes you can be too picky, too finicky. I want a brother that has this, looks like that, knows this, has this money, this height, this weight, this. Sometimes you have to make sacrifices. There's no perfect human being. There's no perfect human being. No matter what the man looks like, or how much ilm he has, or how much money he has, or what family he comes from, something is going to be wrong with him. There's going to be a flaw. There's going to be a shortcoming with this brother. And the same applies to you. Are you perfect? No, you're not. You have flaws. The most beautiful woman is something flawed on her. The most knowledgeable woman is something flawed with her ilm. The best character, the best personality is something flawed with her personality and a characteristic. So everyone has ups and downs. Everyone has flaws. There's nothing which is perfect in this hayat dunya. So you have to be mindful. I would advise you to write down 5 things that the brother must have and 5 things that the brother cannot have. And anything else that's not in those 10 things, bismillah, go for it. Go for it. Maybe 5, maybe too much, maybe only 3. But you have to make your priorities a necessity, a need, and a want. They're not the same. And Allah knows best. Question says, go ahead.
So going back to the question that you said prior about family ties, say for example you try, but then this issue is causing issues with your parents or your mom especially. So she said if you do marry someone as your tribe, it's gonna ruin the relationship to her, but she doesn't want to see it or something like that. So what would you say that?
Tell you. If you marry someone outside of your tribe, it's going to destroy our family ties. Listen to your mother. Let her bully you. Tfaddal. Be miserable. It's just that simple. It's just that simple. Who's going to move first? If you play a game of chicken. Seriously. Who's the first person to move out of the way? You have to make that decision. Is that correct for them to make that ultimatum? If you don't marry who I say, you're going to destroy your family. You're going to go to the fire of hell. Is that proper? Is that an ultimatum from the deen? And are they willing to do that? Or are they trying to punk you into obeying them? So maybe you may have to have a firm situation. I refuse because of what the Prophet said. I refuse because of this hadith. I'm not marrying him. I don't have to marry who I don't want to marry. That's my haq. I'm not a 9-year-old virgin. I'm a grown woman. This is Canada. That's my right. Maybe you have to stand up and maybe make them back down. And if you're unwilling to stand up, and if you're unwilling to go through the pressure and the heat that they're going to put on you, tell you, no problem. If you give in to them, what's worse? Your parents being upset at you, or you marrying someone and being miserable, and being depressed, and having to sleep with a man that you don't even want to be with? Ask yourself that question. Number 2, if you yourself say, I'll sacrifice my happiness for my parents and for my family, that's fine. But what if the next poor sister that comes after you? And the 3rd and the 4th? You have to think about it. It's bigger than you now. So the concept of backing down and giving in, I don't see the good that can come out of it. I don't see the good that can come out of it. Rather, it is a cycle that has to be broken. It's a cycle that has to be broken. And the more the cycle spins, the more momentum is on the cycle. Someone has to eventually stick their hand in there and get messed up to slow it down. And then the next person comes, and the 3rd and the 4th. By the time the 5th person, the wheel is spinning slow and they can stop it and then break it. Somebody has to martyr themselves. You understand? Now,
just to follow up to that question, what if, because you know how you need a wedding to get married, so what if your father was not married last?
Same thing, same philosophy. Force your father to do it. Abby, if you don't marry me, I'm going to get married myself. I'm going to go to the masjid. How many fathers are going to take that? Or he may be serious. Okay, no problem. That's a different fiqh discussion. Can you get married without your father? That's a different discussion. But right now we're dealing on the stare down. Who's going to look away first? You understand? And you say, I am not going to look away. I'm going to make you look away. So just as you have feelings and you don't want to break your ties, your father and your mother feel the same as well. They want to be happy with their daughter. They want to come to the wedding. So you have to play strategic warfare now. You understand? You have to play strategic warfare, psychological warfare now. You don't want me, well, I don't want you. You spread rumors against me, I'll spread rumors against you. And I'll tell them what you said and what you did. They don't want that either. But the psychology of someone who has an advantage over you, and that person, and the truth is to be said, not everybody, but there's some people that may be a bully. They bully you. They pick on you and they know they have the upper hand on you. You have to find their weak spot and exploit it. You understand what I'm saying to you? You can't always back down by threats. And Allah knows best. Salam Sheikh. I've taken an Islamic studies course where the professor is a Shiite. She mixes the doctrines, and I've spoken up in class numerous times, causing the class to respect me and her to dislike me. She has tried to test my intelligence more than once and humiliate me, and has threatened to fail me. I don't want to fail, so am I sinful for falling back? No. Take the exam, pass the class, and that's it. Move on. It's just that simple. Whatever she says, you write down what she has taught you. This is what the historians say. This is the Shiite view. This is the Sunni view. And that's it. Get your grade and leave the class. Don't fight with her. Next question says, what advice do you have for those who want to study Islamic knowledge but their parents emphasize secular education? Is it disobedience if I choose Islamic knowledge despite their hesitation and disapproval? Just like I previously mentioned. You see the template that I'm giving you? The template that I'm giving you. You're grown. That does not mean that you're being disobedient. I do not have to listen to my mother and my father in every single thing. That's not true. Certain things, yes. Certain ages, yes. But not all things. And the best defense is a good offense. The best defense is a good offense. So you expect me to be absolutely pious. But are you absolutely pious? Are you absolutely righteous? How many things that you do, Abby, that are haram? And we all know in this household. How many years have you been making this sin without doing tawbah, Abby? So you want me to be the most pious, righteous daughter, but you're not the most pious, righteous slave of Allah. You have to fight fire with fire. And Allah knows best. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. I want to learn Islamic knowledge. How do I start? Do I start Aqidah or Fiqh? Start with Aqidah. But learn the basics of Aqidah. And if you want to be a serious student of knowledge, then learn Arabic. Learn Arabic and learn how to read the Quran properly. Learn how to study the Quran properly. And if you're in Toronto, then I would say go to my students, the sisters here. Alhamdulillah, I think they're well known. Go to them and demand that they take you under their wings, inshallah, and they teach you and they educate you, inshallah. That's their responsibility. And they are in debt. And they have to pay off that debt by teaching others. Sheikh, what advice do you give sisters who don't respond when you say to them, Assalamu alaikum? They're wearing hijab. That is why I recognize they're a Muslim. What are they afraid of? Khalas. If they don't give you salams, what can you do? As far as what they're afraid of, Allah knows best. They could be afraid of the non-Muslims. They could be afraid of you. They could be jealous. They could be insecure. We don't know. Allahu alam, you've done your job. You've done what's upon you. Keep it moving. Assalamu alaikum. After making istikhara, how do you know that the answer Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving you? What are some signs? Many people have a misunderstanding with regards to istikhara. Istikhara should be made when you have some type of inclination towards something. You're already feeling something. I want to get married to the sister. I do. And now I want to make istikhara for a protection plan. As a guarantee, as insurance. I want to ask Allah to protect me from the sister if she's no good for me, even though I like her. And I want to ask Allah to bring the sister to me, even though I may be hesitant. So, hypothetically speaking, you go into istikhara with a full cup and not an empty cup. With a full cup. You go to istikhara and you already want to do something. You make shura, you ask people, elders, experienced people, and you already want it, and see what they say. That's one scenario. Another scenario is you're totally confused. You don't know what you want to do, right or left. And that's when it's equal. So there is some desire there as well. And the cup is relatively full, but you have two cups now. You make istikhara. And whatever happens afterwards in the first scenario, if nothing changes, then you go forward with marrying the sister. I wanted to marry a sister. I made istikhara. I was patient. Nothing happened. Bismillah, you do it. I made istikhara in the second scenario and nothing happened. Right or left. Ask people. Seek the result of the shura and write down the pros or the cons. The sister has 6 beneficial things with her and 5 things which aren't so good. I'll take the 6. It's just that simple. And Allah knows best. There's nothing wrong with istikhara more than once. And there's nothing wrong with being patient after you make the istikhara. And Allah knows best. That's in brief. Assalamu alaikum. What advice would you give a sister who's interested in a brother, but she doesn't have mahrams who can approach on her behalf? Go to the masjid. Ask the imam of the masjid to represent you. Ask a righteous brother in the MSA to represent you. Ask someone to represent you in a respectful way. There's nothing wrong with that. And until you find that righteous brother or that imam, if you went to the brother, Assalamu alaikum brother, I would like to marry you. There's nothing wrong with that. Who's your wali? I'm working on one, but I want you to know that I want to marry you. Don't get married to somebody else first. There's nothing wrong with that. And Allah knows best.
So just to follow up to the question before that, let's say, astaghfirullah, but like you're talking to someone that you, inshallah, will marry or want to marry.
Okay.
The process is, haram because you're not supposed to be talking to the person, and you want to marry someone. Like, would the answer still be the same in the sense of, like...
It's very simple. It's still the same. It doesn't matter. Whether you're talking to the brother, FaceTiming him, or WhatsApping, whatever you're doing, halal or haram, you want to marry the brother. And now you're asking Allah to make it clear to you, and to give you certainty, and to protect you from the brother if the brother is no good for you. There's nothing wrong with that. Even if you fell into something haram, you make istikhara. You ask Allah to forgive you first and foremost, tawbah, and make istikhara. Abats. Just because a relationship starts off in a bad way, it doesn't mean that the relationship will be cursed. Doesn't mean that. Allah is most forgiving and Allah most merciful, and Allah knows best. Now, with regards to the proper balance, some sisters, they look pious, but they're not really pious. Some brothers. So you basically, you break your family ties, and the brother turns out to be totally messed up. He was a wolf in sheep's clothing. And then the father says, I told you, you didn't listen to me. This is a big problem. And the reason why it's a very big problem is because it supports and it feeds the monster that already exists. So you went out and you married this brother from another race, and your parents were totally against it. And then the brother is not even a Muslim, or he starts abusing you, or he gets you pregnant and leaves you. The first thing your father is going to do, he's going to go to his friends and family and says, let's look what my daughter did, and they're going to say, we told you, don't let her do it. And then when a righteous brother from another race comes, who is righteous, and does have a good paying job, they're going to say what? No. But they're not just saying no because of the bad situation. They're saying no because the jahiliyyah is already there. And now that's adding coal to their fire. So it's a big problem. And that's why it's really messed up when brothers do this kind of stuff. It's really messed up. Because they give the other brothers a bad name and a horrible reputation in light of the prejudice that already exists. You understand? So we say, Yani la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. At the end of the day, if you make the istikhara, and if you seek the counsel of wise, experienced people, I don't see how you can lose. Because that which you don't know about the brother, the wise, experienced people, they can ask. They can find out. And your wali, most importantly. And there's nothing wrong with you having someone on the side. Your father's the official wali, but you go to your local imam or someone, this is brother Fulan. This is his social media page. Can you do some research on him? And if there's a sincere brother, and he's thorough, no matter what you hide in your fingernails, it's going to come out. If he doesn't know him, he knows him somehow, some way, there's going to be something that's going to come out about this brother that he's really not what he appears to be. But if you go in by yourself, if you go in without your navigation, without your friends and your allies, then you may fall victim to your lust or to your love. They say love is blind. The Arabs, they say, you love a thing, it causes you to be deaf, it causes you to be blind. So don't go in by yourself. Go in, first and foremost, with the law's guidance. Secondly, the guidance of people who are experienced and people who are wise. And oftentimes, you may have to go to people who may not be the most righteous and may not be the most pious. It's a reality. This is a serious reality. You may know some sisters or some brothers that go to clubs or that are off the hook on Facebook. You share their link. You ever seen him before? Have you ever seen him in a club? Does he smoke weed with you? I'm being dead serious. I'm being honest. And oftentimes they were like, yeah, I know him. I've seen him before. Yeah, he smokes all the time. But he has a big beard and a thobe. But deep down inside, he's on the side smoking weed. And he's not smoking weed in his house. It's a weakness. It's a sin that he's crying for. No, he does it on the side. That's a problem. So sometimes you have to use people who have expertise. And it doesn't just mean someone's righteous and pious. You employ people that aren't the most righteous and pious because they know who's hanging out, who's drinking. They know who's off the hook, who's chasing sisters on Facebook. Understand this philosophy? So I would advise you with that. And most importantly, don't be hasty. Don't be hasty, all right? And if you're really, really feeling somebody, and you're in love with somebody, that is sometimes a sign to slow down even more. And Allah knows best. 5 minutes left, guys. How do you advise your parents when they do something wrong without a bigger problem? Give them advice. Doesn't mean curse them or disrespect them. Give them nasiha. It's that simple. Jazakallah khairan Abi, you're a great father, but that's wrong. Just like that. Leave them a note. Write them something. Send them a message. Get someone else. It's simple, guys. We overcomplicate things. Nasiha is not disrespect. It's not nastiness. You just give someone advice. You see a sister, Jazakallah khairan sister, I saw that you were wearing this. Inshallah, if you can, try to wear a different color. That's it. Khalas. If she gets offended and upset, that's her problem. It doesn't mean that you talk to someone in a nasty manner. What can we as Muslims do in regards to loans that come in interest, but we have with no means of paying tuition? That's a very long discussion with regards to interest and with regards to student loans and things like this. The question is going to college a necessity? Do you have to go to college? Education, getting a vocation or a skill is one thing, but college, is that obligatory? And if it is obligatory and you have to, do you have to go to this college? Can you not go to another college which isn't so prestigious and which the tuition is far more affordable? So you have to be mindful of these things. The concept of college and going to college, they're not studying. They have all types of thousands of dollars of debt. People who are doctors and lawyers, sometimes they have 30 years to pay off those debts. The whole system, a house debt, car debt, mahar, marriage party is a debt. Walima is debt. Some of us, we live as slaves with balls and chains. We're stuck in debt. That's a problem. And oftentimes we are the cause behind this problem because we take debt when we don't have to take debt. You can get a good job by getting this vocation or this skill without going to college for 4 years or 2.5 years. You get just as good education at a smaller college. You get hired at a different profession. So it depends on what you want out of life. And the Lord knows best. I believe that's all the time, Hafiz. 7:30 is supposed to be over. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. I never grew up with my dad and never spoke to him till recent. He's always attacking me or us and saying that he wishes bad for us, me and my sibling. Trying to be nice, but it's coming to the point where it's very toxic and he's being too much. Can stop talking to him. Will we have a good life, bad life? He can never, I can't understand exactly. I don't know. Try your best, as I said. If he's nasty and he's disrespectful, alhamdulillah, you did your job. Send him a letter. Send him a text message. Send him an email. Get his address, buy him something on Amazon. Send him a gift every now and then, periodically. And let him curse you and say bad things to you. You've done your job. You've performed your obligation as being a pious daughter, and that's it. Don't worry about how or what's his responsibility. If a sister needs to travel overseas, for example, teach in Saudi, to pay off her debt to avoid interest, is it considered a need to travel along without a mahram? And considering she's taking a plane and it's pretty safe, Jazakallahu khairan Sheikh. Like we previously explained with regards to a woman traveling without a mahram. We previously explained that in this city, let alone in other cities. Alright? If you feel that it's a necessity to pay off those debts, then that's a necessity, and Allah knows best. What is the Islamic point of view on studying law and working in the justice system in Western society? Like anything else, there are things that are lawful, and there are things that are clearly unlawful. There are things that are disliked, there are things that are in the middle. Great. What's important is Muslims need lawyers. There's no doubt about that. Muslims need representatives. Muslims need people who know the law. And And oftentimes people are victimized because they don't know the law. They don't know the basics of their rights. You have no right to come in my house and search my house. You have no right to ask me these questions in the airport. Airport security, TSA, this is one thing. You have no right to ask me about, what do you think about this person? Do you know this person? That's not from your rights in the airport. But if you don't know, they'll victimize you. So we need people who have an ilm. We need knowledge of Islam, ulama. We need doctors. We need builders. We need carpenters. We need people who know culinary arts. We need chefs. We need all the skills and trades to live as a community. And from that is law. And Allah knows best. No family in Canada, car, and other country, USA, living here with relatives and their kid now problem with sharing space, and he's disrespectful. I want to move out, but conflicted to living alone. Work 9 to 5, can only afford living with a roommate. Should I move out? Relatives treat me well, but kid not so much. To save up money, and inshallah, when the day comes that you have to move out, do it. Put your trust in Allah. Don't be afraid of what's going to happen in the future. Put your tawakkul in Allah Azza wa Jalla. That's the bottom line, huh? I believe we've run out of time. I'm so sorry for these questions not being answered. If the sisters like during the Q&A after the main lecture, they can send them up.
La ilaha illallah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Hayya ala salat, hayya ala al